Ladies and gentlemen, dear soil supporters and experts on soils from all around the world, a warm welcome to this second session on the mission A Soil Deal for Europe. And thank you very much for joining this session. My name is Peter Wehrheim. I'm head of unit for bioeconomy and food systems in the Director General for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. I'm Deputy Manager of the mission and will be the moderator of this session. I hope some of you have already had an opportunity to listen into the previous plenary sessions on emissions and also possibly on the previous session on the soil mission. In the plenary session, the soil mission board chair, Kees Veerman, he said that we have a lot of work to do to implement the soil mission. Implementation issues were discussed in the previous session between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock today, which was moderated by my colleague Kerstin Rosenau from DG Agri. In this session, we would like to look jointly with you into two additional aspects. On the one hand, the living labs. Our mission board chair, Kees Veerman, argued that living labs will be the key innovation tool for implementing the soil mission, and we would simply like to better understand this new concept, and we will hear an example from France. The second point in this session will be related to synergies between the soil mission and other thematically related initiatives. Commissioner Gabriel in the plenary session this morning on missions said that creating synergies with other instruments and initiatives is a cross-cutting need for all of the missions. Let me introduce to you four excellent speakers we have invited for this session and who are thankfully available to join me for this session. Let me start out with Muriel Mamprini, Research Director at the French National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment, INRAE. Muriel, you have just been nominated as a member of the new Soil Mission Board, the group of experts that will advise the European Commission in implementing the soil mission. So, warm welcome to you. Secondly, let me welcome Professor Grzegorz Sibilec, Head of Department of Soil Science, Erosion and Land Protection at the Institute of Soil Science and Plant Cultivation, and one of the leading soil experts in Poland. Thank you very much for joining us. Thirdly, Nicolas Tinoir, co-chair of the Standing Committee of Agriculture Research Working Group on Agroecology, project manager at the Zentrum at the Forschungszentrum in Jülich in Germany. And fourthly, let me say a warm welcome to Harry Smith, senior analyst and an expert on food and agribusiness for the Rabobank in the Netherlands. A warm welcome to you as well. A warm welcome to all four of you. Dear colleagues, we have 45 minutes only for this session, hence apologies if I also have to be the timekeeper. We will have short opening presentations by myself and Muriel Mamprini, and then we will have a panel discussion. Before starting, we would like to invite you, the participants, to connect with us via Slido. You will see one question next to the video screen. You can connect via the QR code. The question we would ask you to respond to with one word only is, what is, from your point of view, the main soil health challenge you are aware of in your region, in your member state? So please use the link shown in the video to submit your views, and we will show that then in a word cloud later on. Now, some of you may not have listened into the previous sessions on the soil mission. Therefore, let me provide some context and provide some of the essential facts about the objectives and the scope of this mission. Let me show some slides. The slides are now appearing, and on this second slide you see the general scope and the objectives of this mission. The starting point, of course, is the fact that our soils in agriculture, forestry and urban areas are facing many challenges, which we have to address to have healthy soils for a healthy future. The soil mission will support the transition towards healthy soils by 2030 by putting in place an effective network of 100 living labs and lighthouses in rural and in urban areas. And these living labs and lighthouses will be co-created with people who work on soils regionally, locally. They will jointly create, test and scale up solutions that work to address the specific challenges you have in the specific regions. The mission will support the transition towards healthy soils by starting with a limited number of pilots, by setting up then a network and gradually expand to a total number of 100 living labs and lighthouses in rural and urban areas by 2030. Secondly, on the left-hand side of this slide, you see that the mission has 8 specific objectives underpinned with concrete indicators, and the objectives include to reduce desertification, conserve soil organic carbon stocks, stop soil sealing and increase the reuse of urban soils, reduce pollution and enhance soil restoration, prevent erosion, improve soil structure to enhance soil biodiversity and reduce the global footprint on soils, and very importantly also improve soil literacy in the society. You also see in the word cloud, which is shown on screen, which you, the participants, have drawn up, that the problems and the challenges you are listing are very closely related to the objectives we are also addressing in the soil mission. The soil mission on the right-hand side, this is shown, is implemented through 4 building blocks. Of course, there is an ambitious research and innovation program funded through Horizon Europe. The network of 100 living labs and lighthouses is the second important building block. Thirdly, we also seek to develop a harmonized framework for soil monitoring in Europe. And very importantly, and I think there all of you can help us, communication and citizen engagement that is aimed at increasing people's awareness of the importance of healthy soils for all of us. Hence, very important components under one roof. The next slide shows again a bit more detail on the living labs. As I said before, we are aiming to implement 100 living labs by 2030. They will be set up in different regions with different types of soils and soil conditions related to agriculture, forest, urban and industrial areas, with space for co-creation, experimentation and upscaling for soil health solutions that work under specific regional conditions. Living labs will be, from our point of view, real-life places for experiments and innovation, and there are spaces which will bring different soil actors together, where they can participate in developing viable solutions for healthy soils adapted to the specific circumstances. And these living labs will be scaled in a consecutive way. Now, the last slide is related to the fact that the soil mission is embedded, of course, into a wider policy context. We will work hand in glove with the new soil strategy. We have heard some interesting policy statements on the soil strategy also before in the session from the European Parliament. It will also be closely connected with the existing European Soil Observatory established and managed by the Commission's Joint Research Center. On the left-hand side of this slide, you see a few examples of possible links with other policies. My colleague Kerstin Rosenau has also mentioned and shown them. Funding programs and other initiatives through which synergies in principle can be generated. For instance, the mission can generate synergies with what we call the Horizon Europe partnerships. Secondly, we hope that the mission, that there is of course a very strong link between this specific mission and the Common Agricultural Policy. It will be important to see how the member states also will implement soil-related measures with their CAP strategic plans. And of course, the objectives of the soil mission can also be supported through the regional development funds, for instance, or other EU instruments such as LIFE. There will also be synergies between the missions, for instance, the mission on climate adaptation or the ocean missions. There are very many areas of joint interest. And last but not least, there are many private initiatives that are related to soil health, be it from non-profit organizations or business-led initiatives. And we have listed here a couple from the financial world. Now, I would like to move on to the second part and invite Muriel Mamprini to come in. Dear Muriel, as mentioned before, Living Labs will be a key innovation tool for the soil mission. France has already collected some experience with this tool, but for many of us, this is still a novelty in research and innovation, and hence we are looking very much forward to you, Muriel, to shed a light on this. And please educate us. You have 6 minutes, and with this, I would like to give the floor to you. Muriel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, dear Peter, Professor Cibilek, Mr. Tinwan-Smith, dear colleagues and participants. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with such an assembly at such moment what Living Labs are and why they are instruments to accelerate transitions. Well, to situate, if I can have the slides, please. I don't see them. I don't know if you have them in front, but if I can have the second slide then after, to situate the Living Lab, we can keep in mind that they are the most refined instruments in the open innovation landscape. They deliver a mix of 3 outcomes: knowledge, business, and social, thanks to their 3 essential working principles: co-creation with the users in real conditions. This is easy to remember. This is demanding and rewarding in a variety of ways. First, co-creation. Everyone who has experienced it knows that what has to be invested: time, knowledge, and the regular opening out to ideas and constraints of the other. But they also experience how creative and empowering it is. Second, with users. This means that the ones that are around the table are not necessarily the ones that you are used to work with, but for each success of the co-creation process, you have an extended adoption of the innovation and a better harmony in systematic change. Third, in real condition. That means that the range of stakeholders concerned can be large and extremely diverse. But because experimentation can take place in real life with real communities, the path between ideas and action is shortened. May I have the next slide, please? So then the question that I have often is their impact. Actually, Living Labs have a long history. Their first large development is back in the 90s, when the information and communication technology sector was willing to bring the user experience in the innovation process, up in the innovation process. Then the health sector to develop the e-health and take better account of the patient's experience. Then in rural areas to take care of their economical development. In cultural and higher education sector to be closer to citizens. And more recently in the agro-ecosystem, including food, to accelerate the sustainable transition. In each application domain, Living Labs develop unique features and open new windows to understand the innovation dynamics, technological as well as social. Because globally, what you can see on the right part of the slide, what has been documented is that they intertwine with different intensities, innovation efficiency and accuracy for the services produced, with the empowerment and behavioral transformation of the communities involved, with the strengthening of local policies. If I can have the next slide, please. So what will be the labs for healthy, the living labs for healthy soils add to the pictures? What would they add to the picture? Let's take an example, as you invited me to do so. The French government, willing to accelerate all kinds of transition, digital, agroecological, sustainable energy, opted in 2018 for a bottom-up approach called Territoire d'Innovation, with a call asking for projects of co-creation with large range of stakeholders and the population in real conditions. Long-term program, 10 years, with a substantial financial envelope composed of subsidies to run the co-creation process and capacities to support co-investment. Among the 24 laureates, 8 projects in my STEM aim at accelerating the agroecological transition. Can you imagine? The immediate output is that agroecology transition is high at the funding, political, and social agendas. It is foreseen to concern directly 12 billion people. 55 different stakeholders on average are committed in each project, which means a significant part of the value chain is covered. Sustainable forest management in Nancy, sustainable food production system in the city of Dijon, precision agriculture in the region of Occitanie, animal welfare for 3 departments of Western France. I invite you to have a look at their endeavor. All laureates have big ambitions, have in common to use living lab principles, all have their uniqueness, all work on upscaling and outscaling. So if I can have the next slide, please. And what about then soil health? So it was for the next one, but the one after. What about then for soil health? Well, soil health is one of the pillars of the agroecology, isn't it? The European project, Soil Mission Support, which ends 2 days ago, mapped initiatives around Europe that could be considered as living lab for soil health. 6 of the 8 territoires d'innovation that I presented to you just before lie on the map. Besides those living lab for agroecology transition, you can find also rural and urban living labs on the same map. All are concerned with soil management, which is the first step regarding soil health. They have in common a like experience of co-creation with users in life conditions. These are assets, but this is not enough. What is offering the European Commission with a mission is a common vision for immediate and long-term action. This is essential, but not all European countries have developed such initiatives with the same intensity. And second, the one dedicated really to soil health are rare. So to treat soil health at the right level, I mean as the essential foundation for the economy and society of the future, which it is, building dedicated living lab is a strategy that takes credit of what is underway and that will rush action, giving to everyone from the citizen to the landowner the role that they have to play. We know that soil health will be a long journey in which everyone will have to take ownership. We have in our hands quick path, and I'm really looking forward listening to the synergy that Mr. Chinois and Mrs. Smith will highlight. I would like to thank you for your attention and Peter for this very moment.
Thank you very much, Muriel. That was excellent. Thank you for sharing the insights into where this concept comes from, some history, and also your encouraging words. I very much like your slogan, the future in motion through living labs. I think that's very useful, and it was very good for us to learn a bit more also that living labs are not completely new, but there is also already experience out there, and that this can really be a very powerful innovation tool. Thank you. With this, let me now move on to the second part of this session, and invite the gentlemen to share their experiences with soil initiatives. And let's look into synergies. Let's first look into possible synergies with the Common Agricultural Policy, which will lead to higher protection of soils in the new funding period, as one of the key objectives of the Common Agricultural Policy is indeed to foster also the sustainable development and efficient management of natural resources, including soils. Against this background, we have invited the expert on soils from Poland, Professor Grzegorz Sibilec, to come in. Please explain to us what are the main concerns of farmers in Poland when it comes to soil health, and how do you plan to make use of the CAP to improve soils? Please, Grzegorz, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes for this first round. We can't hear you yet, Grzegorz. I hope now we can hear you. Excellent. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting us to this session and organizing this. I will be speaking on behalf of Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of Poland, and on behalf of scientists for whom the soil is very important for our future. I would like to say that I mean ministry, and we scientists are soil-sensitive people. Therefore, any discussion at high level forum on soil is very important for us, and we are happy to see this. And we see the soil mission as a really outstanding program that brings soil to the center of European interest. Similarly, like other issues like energy, water, or waste management. And for us, soil mission is really extremely important for European Green Deal and all the strategies of the deal, like biodiversity strategy or farm to fork strategy. The strategies showed overall direction, while the mission brings everything into action. And to be frank, we see a lot of synergy between common agricultural policy and the Horizon Europe soil mission. And to bring a bit national context into this discussion. So in Poland, we have quite significant share of vulnerable soils. These are sandy soils with naturally low carbon content. Therefore, appropriate soil management is very important and belongs to major CAP goals. And in the Polish National Strategic Plan, we have identified such major priorities like greenhouse gas emission reduction, climate change adaptation, and managing carbon in soil. And I have to also say that better soil management will be also helpful to counteract water scarcity in soils, which is recognized by farmers as a very important, maybe major challenge in the agricultural sector. Better soils, more healthy soils with greater carbon content and better structure can hold much more water. And giving some examples of the plant CAP instrument for soil improvement that would be in synergy with Horizon Europe soil mission. And these are some guides like protection of grasslands, since grasslands accumulate carbon, peatlands that are very important to reduction of emissions and holding water in the environment, in the landscape, the ban of burning stubble. All these practices lead to protection of soil carbon. Other GAGs, like stimulation of plant cover on the slopes or plant cover during winter periods, significantly reduce soil degradation through erosion and soil structure loss that are very common in agriculture. Another good example of instruments within CAP that stimulate soil protection are eco schemes, which would implement fertilization plants, increase the share of legumes in crop structure that help to protect soil, enhance low emission fertilization practices, reduction of tillage. All these practices support natural processes of soil recovery and soil biodiversity, which is very important to all these processes that happen in soil. Very important is research and innovation to bring this into practice, and we see that soil mission will be central action for this, because that offers a wide range and diversity of calls for scientific research projects that refer to such actions like engagement of stakeholders, development of living labs, promoting nature-based solutions, innovative soil advisory, which is quite new, better accounting of soil carbon in monitoring of soil carbon that brings more knowledge on trends in soils. Soil remediation, so bringing already degraded soils into new use, and even spatial planning to reduce the pressure of urbanization on soil pool. Soil sealing was even shown important in today's slide.
And thank you very much. I will try to come back to you. This was excellent. Thank you very much. This was super to get the national context, and you also described very many concrete measures, including GAEC, eco schemes. So thank you for pointing these very pertinent examples out. But in view of the short time we have, let's now move on and invite our next participant in the panel debate. Let me invite Nicolas Tinoir from the Forschungszentrum in Jülich, Germany. I understand you are connected from Bari. Nicolas, you are a very experienced soil expert as well. You have been engaged in many Horizon Europe projects related to soils, and you are currently a key actor in the preparation of what we call the candidate partnership on agroecology. And hence, my question for you is, how is that partnership on agroecology developing, and how does it complement and how can it be implemented in synergy with the soil mission? Nicolas, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. I hope you hear me well.
Yes, very good.
So thank you, Peter, and good afternoon, dear participants. Yes, as you just said, the Horizon Europe Partnership on Accelerating Farming System Transition, Agroecology, Living Labs, and Research Infrastructures will be an ambitious co-funding instrument between the Commission and the Member States associated countries. This partnership is aiming at accelerating the transition towards sustainable, climate, and ecosystem-friendly farming practices. And when speaking about agroecology, we got to say that at the international level, the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations, the FAO, promotes the potential of agroecology, stating that agroecology is based on applying ecological concepts and principles to optimize interactions between plants, animals, humans, and the environment, while taking into consideration the social aspects that need to be addressed for a sustainable and fair food system. We have been working further on that and agreed on common guidelines among our members, so the member states and associated countries involved in developing the future partnership. And we have some common guidelines like biodiversity, water retention, but also aspects related to soil, of course. And when speaking about biodiversity, there is also biodiversity in soil to take care of. What can be added is that agroecology is at the same time a scientific, a social, and practice movement, translating the sustainability goals to engage the redesign of the agroecosystem and the redesign of the entire value chains. This is also reflected in our strategic research and innovation agenda, which we are currently developing. From a thematic point of view, there are numerous synergies that could be identified with the soil mission. Agroecology can be a tool to improve soil health and increase carbon sequestration in soil. And obviously, a sustainable agriculture will need healthy soils, and vice versa. Soil health is tremendously impacted by the agricultural practices, and our commonly developed understanding of agroecology includes aspects such as reducing the use of pesticides and mineral fertilizers, promoting soil health and quality through an appropriate management of organic matter and soil microorganisms. And last but not least on this point, I would say also from a technical point of view, it is complementary in the sense of joining forces, resources. While the mission is mainly, for instance, and hopefully with synergies, funded by the Commission, here we are speaking about putting together resources from the Commission and from the member states and associated countries, using then having a leverage effect to the Commission funding. Thank you.
Excellent points, Nicolas. Thank you very much. I think very important that you are pointing out also the links to the international initiatives related to soils, and you have mentioned that the FAO also promotes agroecology, that there are common guidelines, and that it is also a scientific, social, and practice movement. I think this is also very inspiring and something where we also can learn from in view of the soil mission. And your last point, I find also very important that you argue that this allows us to also, join forces between Commission and the member states, and this is indeed also a very best practice example for creating and reinforcing the European research area. Thanks very much for this first contribution. Let me now go to Harry Smith. Thank you again for joining us, Harry, and we would very much be interested to hear from you how the Rabobank is working on a health index for local soils. If I understood it correctly, that is set up to reward landowners for their good soil management practices. Hence, if you can tell us a little bit about the Rabobank's work on this soil index and explain what the results are so far and how they allow to connect with the landowners. Please, the floor is yours again for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Peter. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Thank you. At Rabobank, well, we finance about 85% of the farmers in the Netherlands. So we have a big stake in agriculture as a financier. And we want to contribute to building a more sustainable world, and including a better soil management, more sustainable soil management. So we want to link and reward, stimulate farmers to improve their soil management. But in order to assess whether the management is improving and to assess whether it's good, mediocre, or bad, we need a tool to tell us how the performance is today. So we need that to be able to put that into a number. And that's why we, together with 2 other important stakeholders, a water company, Vitens in the Netherlands, which is a tap water company who has an interest in maintaining water quality, which is also regulated by soils, and together with ASR, an insurance company, which is the biggest investor in farmland in the Netherlands. Together with Rabobank, we developed this open bodem index, which is an open, soil health index. It uses the results of a soil sample to assess the quality of soil management of the farmer. And next to the soil sample, also some management measures that the farmer is applying, whether he's putting in cover crops and things like that. We make use of work that was done by scientists in the Netherlands that have identified which variables are the most important to monitor if you're talking about soil quality. Those 13 indicators, and there is a common understanding among scientists about what is the ideal score on each of those parameters. And then in the soil index, we compare the actual score to this ideal score, and we get a distance to target. Well, we get a distance to target on all of these separate indicators, and we add that up into one indicator, which provides an indication of how far is a farmer off of the target of the ideal score. Of course, the ideal score is dependent on the context. It depends on what is his crop rotation, and it's also dependent on what is this local soil quality. Is it a sandy soil? Is it a peaty soil? Or is it a clay soil? In all those cases, you have different ideal scores. With this tool, I think we bring science to the farmer's kitchen table, and we help the farmer to better understand his own soil and soil management. Our goal is that this open soil index becomes the one language with which stakeholders around the farmers talk about soil quality to the farmer. And we use the score on this tool to assess the sustainability performance of a farmer. And that sustainability performance is input into the pricing decision for the credit that we provide to farmers, which means better scores on the soil index will result in lower interest rates for the farmer. ASR, the investment company in farmland, does the same. They provide a discount to farmers that make use of the soil index to start with, and in the future they will also take into account the score on the soil index in setting the leases, the land rents for the farmland that they own. We are building a broader coalition. We're hoping to involve farm advisors, off-takers, and so on, to become part of this soil index and to take part in this. We've put the tool in an independent foundation, and we are now working on broadening the coalition of stakeholders that make use of this tool to assess the sustainability performance of the farmer in relation to using its soil.
Harry, thank you.
Harry,
thank you very much. This is really exciting stuff you have presented. That's a very concrete tool. I like that you are arguing that this monitoring tool should be the language to talk about soil quality. As mentioned before, we also have the EU Soil Observatory. Our colleagues from the Joint Research Center are working on that, and I look forward how we can seek there also more synergies. Monitoring overall is very important, and having these tools at hand is absolutely important to connect the dots. Now, we have gone beyond the time allocated actually for the first round, so we have less time for the last and concluding round. Let me ask the three gentlemen, the three panelists, to come back in very briefly in 1 minute and provide a synthesis of on the closing question, which is where do you see the main synergies and areas of cooperation between the soil mission and the specific instrument you have described? Let me first give the floor to Grzegorz Sibilec, but please, Grzegorz, you have only 1 minute.
Thank you. So regarding synergies, we of course see a lot of synergies between the CAP and soil mission, since they both have soil health as a priority. And we have to be aware that soil improvement is a key action to enable sustainable food production and share food security and provide better resistance to climate and even political disturbances. So the CAP, which is important, allows for multiple instruments responding to soil challenges, and importantly, there is a good representation of both mandatory instruments and incentives in the CAP regarding soil improvement. And this should enable really broad implementation of soil supporting practices. And we can expect that even each farm should, thanks to CAP, implement some practices that help soil.
Thank you very much, Grzegorz. That was excellent. This is already very clear and very important that you are pointing out that within the Common Agricultural Policy, we have very good measures for soil improvement and multiple instruments to really support soil health practices. Thank you very much. Let me give the floor directly to Nicolas and ask you to come in a second time for 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. I will stick to 1 minute and focus on the most important and most obvious aspect. It's both the mission and the partnership are speaking about living labs. So we want to have agroecology living labs within our partnership, and we hope that those under the mission could benefit of exchanges of activities organized by the partnership where relevant, and vice versa. We plan in particular to establish a network of living labs complemented by research infrastructure in the partnership, and we hope that we could have maybe some living labs in common between the soil mission and the agroecology partnership. And both instruments promoting the creation of living labs, I think we can create a win-win environment and a higher impact on the establishment of living labs for both. Excellent. Thank you. I think it's...
Thank you very much, Nicolas. This is very clear. And we hear what you are saying, and I'm convinced we will continue to discuss this point, synergies between the missions and the partnerships in many fora, including also in the Standing Committee on Agriculture Research. Let me now give the floor back to Harry Smith for 1 minute. Harry, please.
Yeah, I think a key for the synergies is that to realize synergies, we need one language, one definition to talk about sustainability in soils, because only that we can build a basis for rewarding the farmer for improving sustainability performances. We can, as a bank, we can reward the farmer by lowering interest costs, but that alone won't make the farmer change his practices. Also, maybe a common agricultural policy payment, a bonus on the milk price from a dairy company, or a bonus from a potato processing company for growing potatoes in a more sustainable manner. All these things, when you add them up, that will change the farmer's behavior and will change farming practices. And in order to realize that, we need that one language, that one definition.
I think that's another excellent take-home message. We need one language. Excellent. Dear speakers, this was a very quick and concise journey during which we discussed really new horizons. You showed how the mission, a soil deal for Europe, can work hand in glove with other soil-related initiatives. Only jointly we can achieve our ambitious objectives. We've heard from France that living labs are really a very powerful innovation tool. We have heard from Poland how you intend to utilize the instruments under the Common Agricultural Policy in a very efficient and effective way to support soil health action in Poland. And we have heard from the Rabobank just one example of a powerful and useful private sector initiative. All of this was only a glimpse of what is possible. Many more opportunities exist, and we look forward to exploring with you how your soil initiatives can help us in meeting the overall and the specific targets of the soil mission. Thanks to all speakers. Thanks to the team here in the TV studio, the colleagues in DG Agri, my colleagues from DG Research Innovation who have helped to organize this event. To all participants for your interest. I hear the music, which implies I have to stop speaking. I wish you a great afternoon and evening, and please help us in building the soil deal for Europe. Let's make it a success, and bye-bye.